6 months ago on my channel, I posted this video in relation to cost of living and sneakers. Sneakers, it feels like we're into Americas. Because on one hand, I'm watching content all the time on people who are struggling to get jobs or just struggling to get by. Let's just watch it. I just want you to watch this really quick, okay? To just consume this content to really, I think, stay grounded and keep in touch, because if you're only operating within sneakers, I think in this lane, in this niche, in this passion that we all have in this culture, it is still very easy for you to kind of become disconnected to what is going on in a lot of the world. And I can promise you a lot of people within this country, I can only speak about in the US, but I'm sure in other countries too, they aren't walking around with $800 disposable income per month to be able to just drop on shoes. The truth is we live in both worlds. We have the reality of cost of living going up and across the board for so many different things. It doesn't matter if it's housing, if it's food, if it's services, if it's goods that we're purchasing. We were already dealing with higher inflation and the cost of things going up. Now, tack on the fact that in sneakers, what we love to buy, it costs money, and it's usually not just $5 here, $10 there. No, like we're looking at the average cost of sneakers a lot of times for adults being around $200 now. That's not to say you can't buy sneakers that are a little bit lower. I think that's one reason why, ASICS and some other brands have done really well lately, 2023 through 2025, because they do offer a little bit more sensible options, right? 110 to maybe 130. Let's say the Vomero 5 is at 160. So some consumers are much more willing to pay that for comfort, for something that is still certainly stylish and trending, and it meets the needs of what they may want in their footwear. We also know in sneakers, for some of you, it begins and it ends with Jordan. And I 100% respect that and I understand it, which means you've accepted the fact you're likely going to pay anywhere from $200, $215, $225, $250, as we saw with the 85 bread, and then quite possibly more when it comes to collaborations, and you've accepted that. That doesn't mean, though, that it doesn't become a hard pill to swallow, because you do have to contend with higher cost of living and then still wanting these sneakers. So is there a way to kind of navigate this? Because we've seen the news about tariffs, and I can't believe that I actually saw a video in which a reseller said the factories would be the ones to eat the tariffs. That's not how that works at all, and this is why we should have left children behind. Just understand, a tariff is a tax on the actual country's citizens buying the goods if we're the ones issuing the tariff, which means the goods will be more expensive for us here in the United States. Okay, so please understand, it's a tax on us. We will be the ones paying higher for the goods that we want. And because, and some people may not like to admit this or accept this, but we live in a very high consumption society. Like, we simply do. A lot of us just simply love to consume. Again, I'll go back to the comment where someone said, this used to be an overconsumption channel and now it's a, why is there so much overconsumption? I don't think it's a bad thing to ever ask yourself, like, hey, like, is there a reason? Like, why am I consuming, again, so much? It doesn't have to be why you're consuming. We live in a world where we buy things because, one, we do need actual things, but two, then you want things, and life doesn't need to be an all or nothing reality. It doesn't need to be that, okay? I've never actually stopped buying sneakers. Will that happen at some point? It might, but it'll be just simply by me feeling like I do have enough, not like me feeling I shouldn't enjoy sneakers. Hopefully that's understood. So regardless, Americans, we're going to buy things. Sneakerheads, we want to love and enjoy the pairs that capture our attention. And do I think the only way in which you can be a part of sneaker culture is for you to consistently buy and buy and buy every new shoe that drops just because you like it? No, I don't feel that way at all. I admire from afar a lot these days. I really do. It doesn't mean that I'm not captivated by what so many of my favorite designers are putting out, or even brands, but I don't feel the need to have to just buy it just because it comes out and just because I like it. And that may be something that some may find helpful to adopt as we navigate through these very uncertain, tumultuous times, because it's not just the consumers, okay? It's not just us that are starting to feel the effects of higher cost of living, but I'll go ahead and throw some clips up here so you guys know I'm not just pulling this out of thin air.
That have been flashing warning signs on the economy. A week or two ago, we talked about Domino's. Then just a week after that, Papa John's came out and said that their sales were down, delivery sales were down. Target is seeing problems right now, especially with the boycott that's going on. You have Lowe's, the home improvement store. People aren't spending the money on their houses. Well, now back to doom spending. That's 19% of adults who are saying that they are going back to doom spending now because of their fear and anxiety about the future. And this is according to a recent report from creditcards.com. And if creditcards.com is the one reporting this, then largely the people who are doom spending are also doom spending with debt and credit and not actually spending money that they actually have, which just really makes the problem worse.
First question, how are people affording anything in 2025?
This is our electric bill for 1 month.
So living out here in Australia is crazy. Let me show you.
So we are now a quarter of the way through 2025, and it seems like nothing has really changed when it comes to the cost of living. Budget at least $600, if not $800 for the month. Groceries are ridiculously expensive right now. And then the creator said we budgeted about $700, but I think we're gonna go over. I spend between $300 and $400 weekly, about $60 to $80, and then the occasional Sam's trip for meat. $600 a month for 2 people includes all the meals, $120 a week for 2 people there, $300 to $450 mostly Costco, probably $800 a month for the 2 of us. So the prices do range pretty heavily, but this is just for couples. We're seeing 2 and maybe 3 people. So what happens when we get to parents and 2 or 3 kids? Nope.
So hopefully that helps to add a little bit of context. You have businesses that they're seeing the effects of higher cost of living and discretionary spending going down. When it relates specifically to footwear, there is actually a statistic that was out there that if we're looking like year over year from 2024 to 2025 for February in terms of footwear, that was also down. And you probably wouldn't think that, right? Because in sneakers, February is such a hot month in terms of releases because we have All-Star Weekend. There's always amazing drops when it comes from Jordan brand and then usually Nike. And then typically we follow up with Air Max month after that, or Air Max Day, which I guess that kind of felt a little bit lackluster this month. But again, to know that the spending was already going down, or volume or numbers in terms of sales was already going down, like to me, that was already an early red flag or indicator. And again, it's not just with sneakers, it's also with, let's say, like apparel. Like the apparel, when you see women's discretionary spending go down, that's usually a red flag for a lot of economists, because as women, we love to shop. It shouldn't be your whole personality, okay? It shouldn't. But we do love to shop. I will say that we love to shop. I'm no different, okay, as a woman, just because it may not be like high-end designer fashion bags or heels or like a ton of makeup. No, but I still love to shop, okay? Love it. I love to shop. Not gonna apologize for that. But if it's pulled back, that is an indicator of some things. And so I will say this. You love sneakers and you're trying to navigate all of this. So you're like, okay, is there a way that I can maybe go about this sensibly? And if you were just a friend coming to me, this is what I would say. Again, this is not financial advice. This is to protect myself. But do I think there's a way to go about it? I do. Now, again, I'll add a little bit of context here from someone that is much more respected when it comes to finance, and that is Ramit Sethi, aka the author and the individual who has transformed a lot of people's lives with I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And now it's like Money Talks for Couples. So he was actually interviewed in terms of like what you can do now. Again, I have never said you need to altogether just stop enjoying sneakers, stop buying sneakers. I don't believe you have to do that. Now, if you are in such a dire position where it makes sense, because again, you're struggling to pay rent, you're struggling to pay the basic needs in terms of utilities and putting food on the table, gas in your car, you have really high debt payments that are just eating up so much of your income, you know, you're already not in a position to invest or save anything, then yes, you may be in a position where you need to kind of pull back, right? Maybe just pause on pickups for a minute. This doesn't need to be indefinite, you know, but just pause on pickups for a minute until you get in a little bit more stable position. And I want everyone to be in a stable position so that you can enjoy sneakers without any guilt. Like, I know some people are like, man, I know my wallet's gonna hate me after this month. And my recent video just showcased to you guys, I spent a lot in the month of April, and it wasn't on sneakers. It was on things creatively for just my channel and things, but I spent a lot. So sometimes when we spend a lot, we're like, my God, I know my wallet hates me. I don't want you to be in that position though when it comes to sneakers. So if everything is still just fine, but you're like, hey, there is a lot going on. What can I do? Well, number one, know your numbers. I would just say that, right? So you knowing what you have coming in, what you have going out, that's why the awareness. Were you aware of how much you've already spent on sneakers through the first part of 2025 for Q1? If you weren't, just go ahead and tally that up. It doesn't have to be a bad thing in terms of how much you spent, and it could be a good thing to you because you're like, I spent less than what I thought. I was right on track with what I wanted to spend. Okay, good, awesome. Awareness is number one. Number two, I would just check in with your savings. Like, where is it? Do you feel like it's in a really good spot? Usually they recommend 3 to 6 months, but in these times right now, because layoffs are happening left and right, I would say maybe it's a really good idea to bolster that even more. Maybe you try to get to 9 months. Maybe you even try to get to 12 months. Now that is really ambitious, but it's whatever you feel really comfortable with, where if something happens, you get sick, you do lose your job, you're able to navigate that with a little less stress because you have money there to be able to sustain your everyday life. Remember, these are just the bare bone expenses. This wouldn't include you picking up clothing or hats or shoes or anything, but just that. So I would say check in with your savings and maybe look to increase that amount, whatever it may be. Again, I just think that adds a lot more security. It helps you sleep a little better at night, and who can argue with that? Me, I like to look at it just in terms of percentages, because some of you may be doing great and you may actually get a raise within this next year. Listen, if you do, amazing. Don't feel bad about that just because everybody else may be in a position where they're struggling. That's not going to be the case across the board. It's not just black and white. So if you receive a raise, for example, this is what I tend to do. I like to just increase everything like based on the current percentages that were in place. That way it is kind of matching up 1-to-1. So whatever I was making at this point, if I was putting this amount in the market and I was saving this amount, hey, let me keep that consistent, because if I'm making more and that percentage has also gone up, that's a really great thing. So I would say, hey, maybe look to bolster whatever the percentages of your income, especially if you get a raise, that you're putting away into savings. What I would not do, and this is definitely recommended by Ramit, don't freak out and panic in terms of like your 401k or your 401k, your retirement, your other investments, IRA, Roth IRA, especially if you're younger like myself, right? You're still in your 30s to 40s. You have time for this to recover. Is it going to recover immediately? Hey, just be patient. Please do not panic and just take your money out. Again, I would say focus on savings and having that actual cash on hand. When it comes to sneakers, this may be where it's not the most fun, but it is also just sensible, at least to me. Be a little more practical in terms of what you're willing to spend. And then also, maybe you take a look at all of the pairs that you anticipated that you may want for the year. Are there some of those that if you look back, would you really end up wearing them? Like a whole lot. And I mean like consistently, they become your go-to pairs. If not, it's okay to contemplate maybe passing on those. This isn't saying that you have to, but it's okay to contemplate maybe passing on those shoes, because heaven forbid you spend the money and you don't end up really wearing it, and then something happens and you don't have that, discretionary $200 just sitting there, right? Like, I don't want you, again, to have any regret. Like, this is where it's maybe I have been buying 3 pairs a month, 4 pairs a month. Okay, maybe I scale it back to 2 pairs and maybe only to 1 pair. Maybe I scale it back into a few pairs every few months, or just 1 pair every few months. Again, it really does just become like you moving the pieces around on the board that are most advantageous to you. And also, let me just say this. This doesn't apply to everyone, okay? Some of you are going to be in an amazing position in life where not a single thing is out of place in terms of finances. You have a high income, you have, everything is in place in terms of investing, and you've been able to kind of mitigate what the market is doing. You have tons of savings in place, okay? You are continuously auditing your spending, and so sneakers is the one area where you are happy to spend a lot of money. I love that for you. Continue to do that. All I'm saying is if you're looking around and you're kind of anxious and you're kind of panicking, does that mean that, oh my God, like I'm never going to be able to buy sneakers again because all this is going on? It doesn't mean that. It doesn't at all. At least that's just me. All right. So in terms of myself, like I made the purchases that I've wanted to make, but I was already slowing down on buying sneakers, right? You guys saw that. I had already kind of taken a step back in terms of buying a lot of sneakers and buying a lot of clothing. So some people will be in that camp where it never took tariffs or cost of living to make us pull back. It took us just realizing I'm a little bit more content. I just don't simply want to spend at the rate at which I was spending. And that's great. You'll have some again in the camp of I would love to keep buying these sneakers, but realistically, I'm a little afraid if something happens in this economy. Am I going to be good? And I never want you to be in a position where you have to sell your sneakers by force because you need the money. I just don't. So again, you may be in that camp. And then some others, again, you are great and this is not applicable to you. So continue to do you. But I know that in this society, it does become a little taboo. It becomes a little uncomfortable where you see everyone around you continuing to spend with tons of discretionary income, or at least the perception of tons of discretionary income. And you just don't have it, and you don't feel comfortable either saying, no, I don't have it right now, or I have other goals, or I have other plans right now. And that, again, doesn't mean that you don't have it. I've already shown this right before, where some people may think, well, because you don't buy it, you're broke and you don't have it. No, you just may have other things going on. You may have other priorities. You may want to bolster your savings a little bit more than buying the next 4 retros that come out. And that is commendable, and I support you in that. So it's okay to say, you know, hey, your friends are like, are you going after this? Are you going after that? Do you know how many times I get that question? Are you buying this? Are you buying that? And I'll just say, nope, I'm not. But, you know, I always encourage you guys to please support any of my peers that have bought the shoes, that have reviewed the shoes, because again, they deserve your support too, and they're going to give you exactly what it is that you're looking for if I'm not going for that shoe. But it's a little bit difficult, I think, just day to day when you're just an individual person and all of your friends are doing things and you are choosing to pull back. It's no different than if you're trying to change your lifestyle in terms of healthier eating, and a lot of your friends and things, they are not on that same path, right? So they are still going out to eat all the time. It's a lot of indulgent food that is really high in calories. It's really calorically dense. And again, you're trying to do better. And part of doing better is knowing that you have to make some very deliberate changes. And so you may say, hey guys, you know, I'm not going to go out and do the brunch thing every single, you know, weekend, because it's a lot of calories. It's going to throw off what I have, you know, my plan in terms of just being healthier, being more deliberate in what I'm eating and how much I'm eating. You may get some pushback from friends. You know, the same way if you don't want to be a part of the party life anymore, you get pushback from those who, you know, normally you're a part of that. It's okay, just take a breath. Again, you may deal with a lot of people or some people not liking it, right? I've dealt with that on this channel. Some people don't care for me not buying as many sneakers or clothing or essentials, and you have to do what's best for you, and you have to feel comfortable in doing what's best for you. So do I think that everybody needs to just stop buying sneakers? No, I don't. But however, you've seen Nike say that they're going to navigate that in a way that's best for them. If that means bringing less sneakers into the United States and instead selling more, focusing on other markets that are in Europe or Asia because they don't have to deal with the higher tariff costs, that's smart on their part. That's smart for their bottom line. I always just say, please do what's also best for your bottom line while you're also enjoying these sneakers. So hopefully this video was helpful to someone. I know one of you said, hey, I would really appreciate a little bit longer video. So I guess this is a longer one. Again, I hope it's appreciated. As always, act your age, not your shoe size. Peace.